All right, I want to start the show off by saying right off the outset, this is speculation, all pure speculation. But I figure now is the time to speculate because if this is right, in a couple of weeks' time, this will all be done and dusted. Anyhow, what I want to talk about tonight is what might be the big surprise waiting for the Russians in the Ukrainian offensive. The Ukrainian offensive has been telegraphed for months. Everyone knows it's coming. It's the weirdest offensive ever. It's been told months in advance that it's going to be happening. It gets delayed. It's going to happen. It gets delayed. Anyhow, just of late, people have been starting to claim that it's going to happen in June. It'll happen soon, in the next couple of weeks. Now, from all accounts, this is going to be tough. Ukraine is struggling to get the offensive off the ground. There's been massive Russian missile strikes in the last couple of weeks. These have hit ammo dumps, they've hit command centres, they've hit airfields, they've hit train lines. The likelihood of a conventional offensive getting off the ground just seems to be decreasing as time goes by, not improving. There was even reports of a hit upon a GRU headquarters in Kiev. Video from Khmelnytskyi and Pavhlorad show massive explosions where it seems as though ammo dumps have been hit. There's even reports of an earthquake measuring 3.4 or 3.5 on the Richter scale in Kiev, which they think may have come from a bunker-busting strike under these GRU headquarters. Who knows? Anyhow, this attack on the preparation, supply lines, ammo dumps, aircraft, 5 Su-24s were taken out this week. All of this has prompted renewed requests from Ukraine for F-16s. Now, Biden says, yes, you can have some F-16s. But the numbers that are promised are growing, and the request is getting bigger all the time. I think it was 48 they wanted to begin with. Now it's up in the hundreds they're requesting. Think about that for a minute. Hundreds of F-16s getting involved in this conflict. Now that could make a difference. Hundreds of trained pilots, coordinated, working together, flying F-16s in force. Anyhow, we'll come back to that. So we combine that current situation with the fact that Russia has had months to prepare. They've been through, and they're doing it, they're preparing. They've got hundreds of thousands of fresh troops going through mobilization, completing basic training, now sitting back, away from the lines, but getting some experience of what's happening out there. And adding momentum to all of this is the pressure from the US on the Ukrainians to get their arse into gear and get the offensive going. So, interesting on that point of American pressure. This week, Lindsey Graham, the American senator from South Carolina, travelled to Kiev, met with Zelensky, and has reported back that they spoke about the offensive. Now, apart from Lindsey making some very crude remarks, things along the lines of, and the Russians are dying, and it's the best money we've ever spent, which, not surprisingly, has got him added onto a Russian kill list, which is not something I would like to be on, because the Russians don't bluff about that sort of thing. Anyhow, Lindsey then commented that the Ukrainian offensive plans had been shared with him, and there was a big surprise for Russia in there. So, on the surface, it does sound like bluff, but something I saw this week made me think maybe he's not bluffing. Maybe there is a surprise. So just stick with me for a second here. So this is pure speculation, but roll with me. So clearly a conventional attack isn't going to cut it. My good man over at History Legends, go and check out the link below to his channel, has just done a great piece on explaining why it's going to be so hard for the Ukrainians to break through the Russian defensive lines that have been set up. Now, they might get through the first defensive line, but after that, in some areas, there are 5 layers of defense. Trenches, munitions, guns, tanks, mines, all anti-tank trenches, all this sort of thing. So even if the Ukrainians do break through the front line, it's going to be very tough for them to claim much territory and get beyond those 5 layers of defense to something of value for them. What would make it easier, though, is if they did have hundreds of F-16s in the air. flying around. Suddenly, Ukraine would have airborne strike capability like they haven't had before, numbers big enough to make a difference. But this isn't going to happen. Getting pilots trained up to fly F-16s takes months of time. The Ukraine apparently now is going around and is approaching nations looking for F-16 pilots and pilots who could fly them, and waving around wads of cash and seeing who's keen to come and joyride around Ukraine for a while the Russians throw missiles at them. How successful they will be, who knows? But even if they are successful in convincing some of these guys to come and fly again, it's still going to take time before they're ready. And these pilots aren't stupid. They know what it's going to be like out there going up against the S-300s, the S-400s, and the newly released capability of the S-350s with their AI automation mode, where it's now Skynet allegedly shooting down Ukrainian planes. But let's just imagine for a minute, let's just assume that somehow Ukraine suddenly did have hundreds of jet fighters available. And let's say not just F-16s, but let's say there was a bunch of F-35s, F-16s, F-15s, F-A-18s, Hornets and Super Hornets, Tornadoes, Reapers, C-130 Spookies, Stratotankers, multi-role tankers, DA-20 Falcons, Gripens, Spartans. Just imagine they had a plethora, a sea, like it's an Air Force pilot's wet dream, an Air Commander's wet dream to have all of this. Let's just assume that they had that. Now, how could this happen? You say, could it possibly happen in time for a June deployment? Of course it couldn't. Or could it? Let me introduce you to Air Defender 2023. It is not, as it sounds, some cute toy. Air Defender 2023 is the largest NATO Air Force exercise ever. Kicking off. This is what Jane's military has got to say. Commanded by the Luftwaffe, Air Defender 2023 will see 220 aircraft of 23 different types involved in these exercises running from June the 12th to June the 24th. So in about 2 weeks' time, right in the middle of June, when people are predicting that the offensive will happen and the big surprise will occur, hundreds of kitted up, coordinated NATO jet fighters are going to be practicing, wait for it, training scenarios simulating a NATO Article 5 scenario, i.e. the collective defence of Allied territory. And where will this be happening? So NATO themselves say this. You might have time to get a coffee. Assets from Belgium, Bulgaria, Denmark, Germany, Estonia, Finland, France, Italy, Japan, Croatia, Latvia, Lithuania, blah, 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 Turkey, Hungary, the United Kingdom, and the United States will be flying in Air Defender 23. And the training areas include the east, south, and north of Germany, areas that the Air Force has used for decades for training. However, to accommodate comprehensive large force flying activities, the training areas have been extended and connected via corridors, and the manoeuvres will take place in the German skies, over the Czech Republic, the Baltic states, and in Poland and Romania. Poland and Romania. Well, surprise, surprise. That's right. NATO's largest Air Force exercises ever will be starting in 2 weeks' time on the northwestern and southwestern border of Ukraine. Interesting. Suddenly there might be a way for the Ukraine to have hundreds of jet fighters armed to the teeth, coordinated and operating. Now, of course, these are just exercises, though. It isn't as though there'll be 10,000 support troops or that the planes will be loaded with live ammunition and all of that. Oh, but hang on, let's just read the NATO website again. The exercises will involve 10,000 participants and 220 aircraft will fly live fly exercises aimed at displaying their capability to enact an Article 5 response. And an Article 5 response, let's read from the Book of NATO. Article 5. The parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all. And consequently, they agree that if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the right of individual or collective self-defense, recognised by Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, will assist the party or parties so attacked by taking, forthwith, individually and in concert with the other parties, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force, to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. So, I mean, hang on though. Article 5 can only be enacted in the event of the parties agreeing that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America has occurred. So surely the Russians know this. They're not stupid. They're not going to attack Poland or Romania. It'll be annoying that they're flying around there and the Americans will be putting on a big show of force, but that'll be it. Except Russia wouldn't have to actually attack Poland or Romania. It would just have to appear as though Russia had attacked Poland or Romania. Anyone thinking weapons of mass destruction 2003, Gulf of Tonkin 1964, the ghost of Kiev, Snake Island? I mean, all it would take would be for a Polish jet or a Polish airfield to get itself hit by a missile, for the Polish to claim that they had evidence that it was of Russian origin. There'd be plenty of mobile phone video showing the damage, showing the wrecked jet plastered all over social media. And then suddenly, boom, Poland, the US, the UK, and about 25 other NATO nations are now legitimately enabled to turn their live fly exercises into live fire sorties with with Russia. Anyhow, as I said, this is just pure speculation. But the Air Defender 23, the capability that it brings, if it was turned to be offensive against Russia, would be a big surprise and might just be the difference that Lindsey Graham and others are talking about. Let's see. Anyhow, if you like this, please subscribe, share. Also, if you've got the time, go and check out my other channel, The Third Party Show, and subscribe there. Thank you.